We begin today with news from the Trump administration, which announced new tariffs targeting $50 billion worth of Chinese imports this morning, slated to go into effect on July 6th. The tariffs will mainly impact Chinese goods in the robotics, automobile, industrial machinery, and aerospace industries. Beijing was quick to promise retaliation. According to the South China Post, the nation's Commerce Ministry said on Friday, quote, "We call on all countries to take joint actions, resolutely put an end to this outdated and aggressive behavior, and firmly defend the common interests of humankind." For some analysis, we go to Mr. Bart Chilton, host of Boom Bust here on RT. Bart, can you just start by telling viewers how they might feel these tariffs in their pockets? Will they at all?
Well, if they drink beer, because beer is made from aluminum, that will probably be impacted because the tariffs were put on European, Canadian, Mexican, and Japanese steel makers who import steel and aluminum into the U.S. And so getting aluminum and steel into the U.S. for things like soup and beer cans and soda cans and automobiles and airplanes, by the way, will be a lot more expensive. So the airline manufacturer, like Boeing, their stock has dipped 4 days in a row. They've had lots of turbulence, as they say, in the market. And
why is the Chinese industry so much of a target for the Trump administration? I mean, specifically, what is the Made in China 2025 plan, and how does it relate to this situation?
So two things, Anya. First of all, I mean, there's lots of problems with China, so I commend the president for calling out some errors, like on intellectual property theft, and when U.S. companies want to do business in China, China demands ownership of part of those companies, so there's problems out there. With regard to China 2025, that's an effort to have China be leading in areas like robotics, semiconductors, artificial intelligence, and electric vehicles by 2025. Right. So they really want all of this technology coming to them from the U.S. and other places.
And China's thought is, if you're going to come here and use our labor, we might as well benefit in terms of these patents.
Absolutely.
As I mentioned, China has vowed to retaliate. What impact might that have on domestic industries?
Well, in late-breaking news, actually, they announced just moments ago they actually are retaliating, and it really, I think, will have an escalation of this trade war. At first, everybody, I think, thought, Anya, that Mr. Trump would put these things out there and it would bring everybody to a negotiating table, and it did. The Chinese, for example, said that they are going to buy $70 billion worth of U.S. agriculture products. But as a reaction, in reaction to today's announcement by the administration that they are, in fact, going to put $34 billion, as you say, that's on 818 products by July 6th, and another $16 billion on 284 incoming products at some time to be determined after a consultation period. The Chinese have said, we are putting tariffs of an equal amount on particularly agriculture commodities and autos. And ag, as you know, is a big deal for us, particularly soybeans, which shot down. They've been shooting down $1.40 since the end of May and continue to shoot down as we're speaking. So it's a big problem. And by the way, Anya, China now says all these negotiations that they've been having, Secretary Stephen Mnuchin, Robert Lighthizer, the trade representative, been over in China meeting. Those negotiations, according to China, they mean nothing now. Those are off the table, starting from ground zero. So it's not a pretty circumstance.
So what's motivating Trump then at this point? Who benefits from this sort of escalation of a trade war? Of course, not just with China, but with some of our close allies as well.
Definitely with the close allies. We saw at the G7 or the G6.5 last week, because we weren't really part of it, and the president left early, that and it evolved into name-calling of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau by Mr. Navarro, the trade policy advisor for Mr. Trump. There's not a good relationship. I mean, the only thing I can hope is that there is some, I'm suspect, but some sneaky strategy that perhaps this is all going to work out. And more power to the president if that's the case. But so far, it looks to me like nobody is winning from these circumstances.
And still in the media, we hear this is the lead up to a trade war. I mean, at what point, if it walks and talks like a trade war?
In my view, it's been a trade war since March. And, I mean, we've already imposed these steel and aluminum tariffs. We're already getting countermeasures from Mexico. It's a done deal trade war. It's only escalating at this point, Anya.
Well, I guess many people will be hoping for detente then sometime in the near future. Bart Chilton, host of Boom Bust, thanks so much.
Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more of RT America's one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe and never stop questioning more.
Shoot down as we're speaking. So it's a big problem. And by the way, Anya, China now says all these negotiations that they've been having, Secretary Stephen Mnuchin, Robert Lighthizer, the trade representative, been over in China meeting. Those negotiations, according to China, they mean nothing now. Those are off the table, starting from ground zero. So it's not a pretty circumstance.
So what's motivating Trump then at this point? Who benefits from this sort of escalation of a trade war? Of course, not just with China, but with some of our close allies as well.
Definitely with the close allies. We saw at the G7 or the G6.5 last week, because we weren't really part of it, and the president left early, and it evolved into name-calling of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau by Mr. Navarro, the trade policy advisor for Mr. Trump.
We begin today with news from the Trump administration, which announced new tariffs targeting $50 billion worth of Chinese imports this morning, slated to go into effect on July 6th. The tariffs will mainly impact Chinese goods in the robotics, automobile, industrial machinery, and aerospace industries. Beijing was quick to promise retaliation. According to the South China Post, the nation's Commerce Ministry said on Friday, quote, "We call on all countries to take joint actions, resolutely put an end to this outdated and aggressive behavior, and firmly defend the common interests of humankind." For some analysis, we go to Mr. Bart Chilton, host of Boom Bust here on RT. Bart, can you just start by telling viewers how they might feel these tariffs in their pockets? Will they at all?
Well, if China. So I commend the president for calling out some errors, like on intellectual property theft. And when U.S. companies want to do business in China, China demands ownership of part of those companies. So there's problems out there. With regard to China 2025, that's an effort to have China be leading in areas like robotics, semiconductors, artificial intelligence, and electric vehicles by 2025. Right. So they really want all of this technology coming to them from the U.S. and other places.
And China's thought is, if you're going to come here and use our labor, we might as well benefit in terms of these patents.
Absolutely.
As I mentioned, China has vowed to retaliate. What impact might that have on domestic industries?
Well, in late-breaking news, actually, they announced just moments ago they actually are retaliating, and it really, I think, will have an escalation of this trade war. At first, everybody, I think, thought, Anya, that Mr. Trump would put these things out there and it would bring everybody to a negotiating table, and it did. The Chinese, for example, said that they are going to buy $70 billion with a B of U.S. agriculture products. But as a reaction, in reaction to today's announcement by the administration that they are, in fact, going to put $34 billion, as you say, that's on 818 products by July 6th, and another $16 billion on 284 incoming products at some time to be determined after a consultation period. The Chinese have said, we are putting tariffs of an equal amount on particularly agriculture commodities and autos. And ag, as you know, is a big deal for us, particularly soybeans, which shot down. They've been shooting down $1.40 since the end of May and continue to shot down as they drink beer, because beer is made from aluminum. That will probably be impacted because the tariffs were put on European, Canadian, Mexican, and Japanese steel makers who import steel and aluminum into the U.S. And so getting aluminum and steel into the U.S. for things like soup and beer cans and soda cans and automobiles and airplanes, by the way, will be a lot more expensive. So the airline manufacturer, like Boeing, their stock has dipped 4 days in a row. They've had lots of turbulence, as they say, in the market.
Mm-hmm. And why is the Chinese industry so much of a target for the Trump administration? I mean, specifically, what is the Made in China 2025 plan, and how does it relate to this situation?
So two things, Anya. First of all, I mean, there's lots of problems with China.